there is this political analyst in Iran. His name is Morad Vaisi, and he's right now, I think, the most popular political commentator among Iranians. Right? He has his own YouTube channel. He also has a segment on Iran International, and there's a clip from his own live in the Q&A segment that is going viral among Iranians right now because it's funny, but it's also very telling, right? So let me just play it. And the reason this really demonstrates what's happening with the many views of Iranians when it comes to their religious views. So in Iran, many people have left Islam. Many people have left Islam. But even among people who have left Islam, many of them still believe in God. It's true that we have like at least 20% atheists, which is like really high for a country. But still, most people who leave Islam, they don't become atheists. They still believe in God. However, the recent events in Iran, including the massacre on early January and the continuation of the Islamic Republic after that, has made many Iranians question like what kind of a God would allow this? Is there even really a God? So somebody on Morad Vaisi's live show in the Q&A section asks him, like, is there even a God? Um, and what that is allowing the mullahs to continue oppressing us. So I just wanted to play that part. I will just play it all the way through. It's 19 seconds only, and then I will translate it. Just give me a second. Yeah, here. So look at this.
آیا خدایی هم وجود داره که جلوی ظلم آخوند رو بگیره؟ حالا کسایی که معتقد به خدا میگن خدا وجود داره، کسایی که معتقد نیستن خدا ناباور چیز. ولی آمریکا وجود داره.
So 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 he says that he when he's answering, he's saying that he's reading the question saying, is there really a God given that the mullahs are still oppressing us? So he answers like, well, there are some people who believe in God, and in their opinion there is a God, and some people who don't believe in a God, and in their opinion there's no God. But the United States does exist. Okay, and let me explain what he's saying is because people are waiting for a higher power to come respond to their request to end the regime. And I think by saying, but America does exist, is saying like, okay, so you might agree that there's a God or not, but the higher power of United States does exist. Like there's no doubt regarding that. Okay, so let me play it with that context. Let me play it one more time. It's really
آیا خدایی هم وجود داره که جلوی ظلم آخوند رو بگیره؟ حالا کسایی که معتقد به خدا میگن خدا وجود داره، کسایی که معتقد نیستن خدا ناباور چیز. ولی آمریکا وجود داره.
Anyways, just wanted to share that with you because that's going viral. And it's actually interesting because I do think that many Iranians don't, ask God to come save them anymore, right? They're just looking at United States, they're looking at Israel, they're looking at Princes of Pahlavi, and their hopes, are in these powers to come and help them. And there's less people appealing to God. And when I was in early January, when we were showing videos of parents going through the black body bags looking for their family members, I remember this scene where when this parent was saying Khodaya, Khodaya, I mean, like, oh God, oh God, and somebody passing by just said like, what God? Is there even a God? Because like basically look around you. How could you say God? How could you say, oh God, look what's happening around you? How could there be a God if this is happening? By the way, I hope people who are believers here, they don't get offended by me sharing this. I just, this is just the reality of some Iranian people experience this. Even if you believe in God, I mean, I think you agree that it's pretty natural that questioning God's existence increases in times of hardship. I remember there was during the Holocaust, there was this there was this craving on the vault on one of the walls when in the concentration camps by one of the Jewish people there that was later discovered, that said, if there is a God, he has to ask for my forgiveness. That was on the wall of one of the concentration camps during the Holocaust. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I don't know if anybody has any opinions about this, but yeah.
The video was really good. It was savage, like I said, but like if we look at it seriously, I think everyone should just have that small conversation with himself, and like because some people really, it was helping them, the concept of God, to go through the darkest and blackest days of their lives. Other people like started questioning God, and it was just another hard question, up, adding up on all the hard stuff they have to deal with. So, like, if we look at this question seriously, I believe everyone just has to ask this question himself. And if the outcome is yes, God helps me to move on, so yeah, he should keep his belief in God. And if the answer is I can forget God for what I'm getting through, so maybe he just shouldn't think of God, and he just should think that now there is a big problem. This big problem will eventually one day over, and all I have to do is understand that I have to get ready for the long term, because that's what will help me survive, and then I would be more useful in the future. And that's it.
So you think it's about a belief in God, or lack of belief in God is a matter of utility rather than figuring out objective reality. So you think that if God is helping you, belief in God is helping you, keep the belief. If it's not helping you, then don't have that belief. So you don't see it as a matter of discovering objective reality. You see it as a matter of whether it has utility or not. Okay.
Yes,
All right. So
it's kind of a simplification, but I think in hard times you better to simplify questions that are hard and has no actual answer.
interesting. Okay. Interesting philosophy.
Next, we have Idan, who wants to respond.
Okay.
Hey everyone, I'd just like to recommend a movie. It's called God on Trial, based on a real story witnessed by Elie Wiesel. I said I want to recommend a movie. It's called God on Trial. It's based on a real story witnessed by Elie Wiesel in Auschwitz, where basically a few of the prisoners basically put on a trial for God about why and how he abandoned the Jewish people. And it very much relates to this topic, and I think it's a great movie, and everyone would benefit from watching it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I've heard that movie, name of that movie. I've never got around to watching it. But yeah, thank you. Okay.
Next, Noah wants to respond.
Thank you. I First of all, I have heard that movie. I've heard that movie's good, but going to what I was gonna say, I think I'm a big believer in God. I'm a Christian, and I've also read in the Bible that He is a He loves us. He's a zealous God. He will always, and His vengeance He's slow to anger, but when He acts, it is righteous. So I think when World War II during the Holocaust, I mean I believe that when the Nazis were defeated, that was his judgment. And of course, prophecy was fulfilled when the state of Israel was reestablished. And when you shared that video, I think it just, it goes to show that God's hand, at least in my beliefs, that his hand is still on America and on Israel because of how bad Iran is getting defeated right now and over the past couple of years. So That's just my beliefs. Although we are all free to believe on how we want to believe. So
By Iran, you mean the Islamic Republic?
no, the Iranian people. I should have said. I'm sorry.
Yes. Okay.
I
Yeah, that's
no.
okay.
I meant. You know, his hand is going against the Islamic Republic. Thank you for
It is.
catching me, Armin. Thank you
Yeah,
so much for catching me.
no worries. No. When you say judgment upon the people, like some people might find that unfair. So, for example, saying the Holocaust was God's judgment or the suffering of the Iranian people's judgment, some people who are innocent are suffering, and that's why people might find that like not a way, like to do to collective punishment upon an entire group of people. Some people find that unfair, right? Including like
Right.
children that had nothing to do with that, right? And also when, like, for example, when you say the Holocaust was a judgment, but then the state of Israel was the salvation and the reward, many people think like, okay, but the people who were being tortured in the Holocaust and died, they never experienced that.
Right.
So some people got punished and other people got the reward for it, so they don't see the fairness in that, right?
Right. I can see that. That's a good perspective.
Okay, yeah. Hopefully, you guys no. But as a Christian, if I bring this up, do you get like offended or anything, or is it you're comfortable discussing these topics, right?
No, I'm perfectly comfortable discussing these topics. No, I'm not. Years ago, I would have been offended, but no, I'm good.
Okay. Well, okay, I appreciate that. All right.
Appreciate you.
Next, we have Samantha who wants to respond.
Samantha. Samantha?
I want to read a quote by Eli Wiesel that I just had up on my phone. Give me like 2 seconds. Okay. Some people who read my first book, Night, they were convinced that I had broke with faith in God. Not at all. I never divorced God. It is because I believe in God that I was angry at God and still am. The tragedy of the believer, it is deeper than the tragedy of the non-believer. I sue God. I bring him to a rabbinic tribunal, and the arguments are all the arguments I take from the Bible, from his words. I take God's words and say, since you said these words, how is it possible that other things are certain? Things have happened.
Interesting. So that would suggest that there is a God, but he's not benevolent and he's not honest, right? Somebody with that philosophy believes in a God that is not necessarily always good or always honest. Interesting.
I
Okay.
don't know if I'd go that far, but like believes in God, but like believes it's okay to be angry at God.
Why? Because I assume being angry at somebody comes with the assumption that they are in the wrong. Because if they're not in the wrong, there's no point getting angry at them. So if you are getting angry at God, then you're judging them to be in the wrong, which suggests that it's not a tri-omni God. A tri-omni God is a God that is all knowing, all powerful, and all good. So anger towards a God suggests that it's not tri-omni, omnibenevolent, omnibenevolent. Yeah. All right. So interesting. Thank you. And I know that that's more common among Jewish people to challenge God and be angry with God or be in conflict with God than in Christianity or in Islam. All right. Next.
Next, we have Jeffrey to respond.
So, I mean, super important topic. It actually has a lot of implications with regards to geopolitics. So if God is allegedly unjust or angry, I think that's called the weak God hypothesis. So at least that's what I remember it being called. I mean, as far as evil happening in the world, evil happens in the even though his so like the question becomes how can Hashem, right, God the Father, who's all powerful, all like omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, all knowing, all powerful, everywhere, all loving, allow evil to occur? And the answer to that is free will. Yeah, free will. So God exists everywhere, even in hell. And God loves everybody, even the devil, even bin Laden. And the last part took me a long time to admit, much less say outside, because I hate what that person did. What makes the devil so tragic and bin Laden so evil is that they turn their back on God for so long that they forget how to recognize or see God at all. That's what they mean when they say you're lost. You lose your way back. Hell is locked from within. Yeah. As far as like organized religion, that's true. Those are all in humanity's imperfect reflections of Hashem's perfect lesson. So there's always going to be errors there. Like why did Hashem send his son to die for us? Yeah, that's a discussion that's had. I'm going to tie this back to Iran in a minute. So like the evangelical types, or some of them say, well, God, had to send Hashem, he took flesh and sent his only son to die for our sin. No. The reason God didn't have to take flesh to understand what it is to be human, God already understood. The reason why God sent his son to die for us is to illustrate to humanity, to man, in a manner that man can understand, that God understands. As far as how that's weaponized, I think it was, what is it? Help me out, Armin. It was the Ulamad that tried that shit in the beginning part of Islam's kind of existence. Well, what they misperceive to be God, Allah, creates, simultaneously destroys and creates every atom everywhere. So if they rape, kill, or do all the stupid shit they were doing, that somehow that Allah, allegedly ordained it, right? That was their way of trying to theologically justify their shit. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the conflict between the Mu'tazilites and some caliphates of the
in fact, that gave rise to the Mu'tazilites, which had a very strong Persian element to it, like Greek and Persian. Yeah. This is right before that. Anyway, yeah. So, I mean, you see a lot of hostile actors try to co-opt the existence of God to pseudo-theologically wash their shit. I mean, it's not true. Still, you see him do it, though.
I want to quickly respond to that again from an atheistic perspective, which I hope, again, you guys are okay with. The reason why the free will argument doesn't, we atheists might not see it as convincing is, we say that if you watch, for example, a man raping a child, right? And you have power to stop it without anything happening to you, saying I'm going to respect that man's free will is a strange argument to make for allowing such horrible act to happen, right? So saying there is free will, if God is all powerful and all knowing, whatever goal he has, he could have given us free will. We're not going to do round on round. Jeffrey, if you want to discuss this, I'll stop talking because I don't want to because I want to go to other topics after this, right? But let's say God has a goal, God has an objective, and you say there's free will required to get that to that objective. If God is all powerful, he could find infinite ways to get to that whatever goal he has, and there are infinite ways to get to that objective without people suffering, right? If you're all powerful. If you say free will is necessary, that means God is not all powerful because there's limited ways. If you say, but even if you need free will does not. There's infinite ways where you could have free will without extreme suffering. Maybe you could even have some suffering, but you could have removed extreme suffering. And saying there's free will, we're talking about humans, right? We know, for example, there's somewhere right now, somewhere in a desert, that a snake has swallowed a mouse. And that mouse is now moving towards the stomach of that rat, where it's going to be slowly digested by stomach acid in the most brutal way. And this is happening millions of times every day in nature everywhere. And this has been happening before humans even step on planet Earth. So even if we talk about free will, about humans, Why did God have to create such a condition for this mice to extreme such level of brutality, such level of torture before it dies? It just makes no sense, right? So that's the free will argument. Doesn't make any sense. That's why, I mean, to me as an atheist, doesn't make any sense. And also the idea of God loving Ali Khamenei, and that, like, there's no way that I could be convinced that somebody who loves Ali Khamenei could be a good person or a good entity, right? If you say somebody, a man who's like raping a 4-year-old girl, if you say there's a God that loves that man that is doing the raping, I'm like, okay, that's not a good God. If there is a God that loves a man that is raping a 4-year-old girl in the most brutal way before it kills it, to me, if you call that God good, then you have completely redefined what good or bad means. All right. Guys, again, if let me know in the chat if Christians here or any God believers here prefer us not talking about these things, because I want to make sure that everybody's welcome here and people don't feel like this community does not belong to them just because I'm an atheist and I have these views. I just feel like comfortable sharing my opinions here with you guys. But we could come back to this again if other topics have already been covered. But yeah, so Nara, whatever, who's next?
So Amy wanted to be taken off the response list. So we're going to go to our
Oh,
main list. We have Daniel Dome first for a new topic.
I hope I didn't upset Amy.
No, I asked to put it back on. I'm sorry.
Hey, go ahead and let's. I want to hear Amy. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, so you guys are really good at all these terms and what it's called and how to define what it is, but like I was raised Christian and I've never had a problem with faith. It's never been an issue for me, but like I don't know if I look at it I don't know if I look at religion as like one thing. I think it's regional depending on where you're born in the world. And so I don't know what God looks like. I don't think that God looks like anything, you know. And but I also don't get mad at God for stuff. But when you started talking about free will, it was like, okay, you're right. If somebody has free will, the reason I don't get mad is because that was that's my understanding is that like from a Christian standpoint, that was the gift that we were given in the garden, right? Was the gift of free will, and what you do with it is your choice. But I never thought about it like God would be angry at you for using your free will. Does that make sense?
Right. So let's say, for example, completely naturally, a baby gets blood cancer. Right. Nobody. It's not because another human being used their free will to do something bad. That is just completely natural without any human intervention.
Right.
Like, why? And we think that's unfair for that child, for that 2-year-old child to have to go through that and then die. Like, whose free will is now involved here that we could justify this happening to that 2-year-old child?
I guess I just looked at free will as not it being something that happens to people without. So, like a child getting cancer wouldn't be somebody's inflicting their free will on that child. It would
Right.
just be like a random act or a random.
Exactly. So
Right.
the free will discussion would be irrelevant here, right? So
Okay.
therefore we see suffering happening of it. So the only place, if there is anybody that could be blamed, would be God, because there's no human responsibility here, right? So because every time something bad happens, people say, well, it's free will and bad people do bad things. But this is why I made the example of that mouse in the middle of the desert being swallowed by a snake and dying very slowly. Like, how do you explain that? Like, we're not talking about anyone's free will here right now. We're just talking about things, that suffering that is just happening in nature,
Right.
or suffering of a 2-year-old going through a natural, like, like there are worms that, on children, that grow inside children's eyes and eat it from the inside. Nobody is doing this to them. This is just part of nature. Like, why even create that
Right.
worm? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying. I never really thought about it that on that. That's almost like molecular. So I guess I never really thought about God in that way.
I'm actually a lot more understanding of the idea of God compared to before, because I don't think I used to always think God has to make sense. But I now think more like Daniel. I think for people just want like something to make them like it doesn't have to make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking like, well, people are not trying to make it make sense. So if you keep telling them this doesn't make any sense, to now I understand that it doesn't have to. It's making people comfortable, and that's what they're going with, right?
Yeah, right. And I don't, so I don't get I don't see God as a person, I guess. Do you know what I mean? It's like I
Right,
don't get mad at God for stuff. I don't think that God
right.
makes bad things happen. So
Well, I
that's
mean,
all.
if you don't think God makes bad things happen, then that means that he's not the ultimate force in the world, right? There are, because
I don't,
even if he doesn't make bad things happen, he could stop it if he's all powerful, right?
I mean, he could, but I mean, that would change the dynamic of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Well,
Not,
it's not like he hasn't been involved in things, intervened.
yeah,
Yeah, the free will discussion is not relevant here. My examples are with examples that removes free will from the equation. I don't even know why we're going back to free will. I
oh,
mentioned why free will. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm talking to like Jeffrey's comment in the chat.
oh,
Anyways, let's just move on. But yeah, but I see you. I Amy, I see you is just this is something that you were born with. You're comfortable with it, so you don't question it because it's just comfortable, and you
right.
go with it. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think about it too deeply, I
Right.
guess.
And you don't have to. Like I used to think, I used to be like an atheist, like you have to, and I think like nobody has to force you. If it's comfortable, you go with it. Like why
Yeah.
not? Yeah, yeah. All right.
Jeffrey put it too as well.
All right. Okay,
To
Jeffrey,
respond.
go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll do this and then we'll move on to our main list to see if people have new topics. Go ahead,
Um,
Jeffrey, real quick.
I'm not trying to be combative. I was just going to ask you
no,
something about your
no, no.
experiences. Do you ever think maybe your hostility towards the idea of God's existence is underwritten by your experiences and the brutality of the Mullah regime, a regime that co-opted the idea of God as part and parcel, like to pseudo theologically wash their top down? Do you ever think maybe it was like a motivated bias? Maybe
Absolutely
that.
not. So many people have accused me of that, and they're so
Hold on,
wrong.
wait, Armin. I'm
Yeah.
not accusing you of anything. I'm
No,
asking you.
no. To I know you weren't trying to do that, but to me it is, because that makes it more psychological than logical, and I know for a fact that's not the case. So many people, when I'm making a logical argument for my lack of belief, they think that this is more psychological than logical, and I know for a fact that it's actually more of a logical. My lack of belief is based on logic rather than psychological issues, is because when I lost my belief in God, I had everything, and I was not experiencing, and so I was more religious than the Islamic Republic when I start questioning God. And it had nothing to do, it has absolutely nothing to do with the suffering around the world. And I wasn't even seeing the suffering around the world. And I wasn't even experiencing any hardship from the Islamic Republic. And I grew up in an environment and in a family that I was completely isolated from it. I had a very rich family and I had a very comfortable life. And I wasn't this obsessed with suffering around the world when I lost my belief in God, when I did believe it. Yeah, in Iran, I lived with my family, very rich family, very liberal, secular family, which were so annoyed by me when I became religious, and I became extremely religious. And we had a very comfortable life. My father's a heart surgeon, and he made crazy money. So no, it wasn't. And when you're in that segment of society, any form of oppression by the Islamic Republic does not really apply to those people. Like, so I mostly did not experience any of that, and I was isolated from that. So no, it's not because of that. My loss of belief in God started when I started studying history and the history of religion. because I was basically looking at God's way. I couldn't understand how it was justified for God to punish people who don't believe in him. So I was trying to understand the history of religion. And through the history of religion, it became very apparent to me that this is made up for political purposes. But again, I might be wrong. I can always be wrong. Okay, like I'm never going to close the door. I'm never going to act like I'm certain about anything other than one claim. There's only one claim in the world that I'm certain about, and nothing else I'm certain about, including the existence or lack of existence of God. So yeah, it was purely mathematical. Like that's how I treated it. Completely pure logic, no emotion. I hope that answers your question, Jeffrey. And the only reason why I wanted to move on is not because I didn't want to hear what you had to say, but because I thought we're going to get in a loop and then that's the only, because I genuinely, if I had time, I would just like go and talk to you about this for hours and hours and hours.
I also wanted to just add something very quickly, that there are militant atheists who are way more hostile towards religion in general, that were not in a super extremely religious environment, and they're still hostile. So like those people exist as well. Did not have that experience, but they're still as hostile as some other atheists. But anyway, so Rebecca wanted to answer for this topic.
Can you guys hear me? Is the sound okay? Because I'm outside, so.
Yes.
Okay.
It's okay.
So I just wanted to say that, first of all, like having somebody to be mad at is a feature, not a bug, as far as I'm concerned, because it's like sometimes actually there is no one to blame, and if you really want to be angry at something or someone, so you get angry at God and like speak your mind, and like, there's somebody to cuss and like take vengeance on, but you take your fist upwards and be like, "Argh!" instead of like actually, like somewhere something, which is I feel like it's a feature, not a bug, personally. Okay, it depends how you can, but like it's like a don't talk and don't create an image of God, and an image of God also means like trying to imagine what God is, and it's very useful. Like yes, it is a let's not talk about God too much, which Christians do a lot, try to figure out God, and Jews are like, let's not try to figure out God, because here's the thing, right? It's like, here is the law, and you have the God thing, because here there are two types of people who would follow the law as in be good people because that's their natural inclination, and then there are the other second half, which is the one that you need to frighten the shit out of, and that's where God comes in.
That reminds me that I do have appreciation for the many things, like the rituals and the community that religion provides, especially ancient religions like Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, the symbolism, the rituals, the gatherings. Like my understanding is that religion, even if religions are based on myth and legends, there's a psychological need for it, for the rituals, at least for the rituals and the traditions and the symbolism. And I used to dismiss that as important, but because I don't need it, so I think like other people don't need it, but I shouldn't, you know, I should. But the more I studied it, the more I realized that this is a human need, and religions provide that, even if it's based on myth. So I also have a huge new appreciation for atheists who keep the religious traditions that they came from. So, for example, when I went to Israel, I met a lot of atheist Jews who kept on their religious tradition of Judaism, even if they didn't believe in the stories. And it also that made me appreciate Iranian atheists who celebrated Zoroastrian symbolism and tradition, even though if they don't believe in God, they still kept it alive because it's just the traditions of their homeland.
Yeah, and I didn't mean that you are hostile, Armin.
Oh yeah. Okay. No, I was just
Just to
checking with people.
clarify that. Yeah. Rebecca, you have more to say? Sorry.
No, it's just also like, Armin, do you have kids?
I for security reasons, I've been told not to answer that question. Is that okay?
Okay, so I don't know, because maybe the ones that you have or don't have or encountered weren't very annoying, but some kids are. And then when there's like, why, you just say like, cause God told them, cause God said so, and then you move on,
Can I say? I'm gonna say something that maybe some of you won't like. So when talking about kids and gods, this is what I think about, right? Because they say God loves us, and then also God created hell, and He doesn't want to put us in hell, but He would put us in hell if we don't worship Him, and if we don't believe in Him, and if we don't thank Him. And I'm thinking this is kind of like a mom who has has made the entire table put full of food and everything on the table. She has worked so hard to go get your favorite food for her daughter and prepare the best breakfast. And then the daughter comes downstairs and she starts eating, doesn't even look at the mom, doesn't even thank her, doesn't even acknowledge her. She just eats as if she doesn't even exist. She treats her like it doesn't exist. And the mom is like, okay, I love her so much, but grabs her by the hair, puts her in the oven, turns the oven on the exact temperature required for her to not to die right away, but experience the slowest, most painful death possible. And she says, I don't want to do that. I really did love her, but she wasn't grateful. She didn't acknowledge my existence, and I was forced to do this. This is what it sounds like to me when people say, the God of the Bible loves us.
But there is no requirement in the Jewish Bible or the belief in God is not required. Like God doesn't demand it.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement.
Okay. And
Kat Miowski to
Miowski, sorry.
It's a huge topic, so I don't want to get too much into this, but what you're describing is more, I say, Christianity and maybe Islam with hell and all that. It can be a different way. It can be like a parent that teaches its child like the most Pavlovian thing, what's bad. You don't have to burn it, but you can fix it. But that's the whole issue. Let's not get into it. And I wanted to add another thing. The rituals are taken for granted a lot, also by me in the past, because they demand of you to actively do them. And it's not easy. And people forget or don't know that it's mostly about children. Later in life, it seems stupid, but it's meant to pass something from generation to generation. And yeah, I think it's very useful. Yes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I want to move on, but I think Samantha has one more thing to say, so very quickly so we can get to new topics.
Yeah, I was going to just reiterate what Rebecca said. Jews don't really believe in, hell and stuff. Or, God's going to punish you if you stop believing in God. So, but, honestly, that's something that's, really scary the more I think about it that exists in, other religions. Because I feel like that just contributes to, no wonder, Christians fucking hated us. Because if you think God is amazing and all good, and then God's gonna burn people who don't believe in Jesus, I could see how that then by default you have to think that people who don't believe in Jesus are evil and bad and dehumanize them. And I'm like, that now makes kind of sense why it's a religion that historically didn't play nice with others.
Don't we have in Exodus God saying, "Thou shalt not worship other gods except Him, except Yahweh"?
No, you're not gonna have a God. You're not gonna have another God, but it doesn't mean that you need to believe in God.